Hey, everybody. Fascinating chat today with MEF, an amazing community focused on what's next in networking and network as a service. Pascal, how are you?
Good, Evan. Good. Doing really well. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for being here. You're the CTO of MEF, an amazing community around an industry I've spent 30 plus years in. So I have lots of questions about the amazing work you and the members are doing, but maybe introductions are in order first. Introduce yourself if you would. And who is MEF for folks who may not be familiar?
Absolutely. Thank you, Evan. So I'm Pascal Menezes. I'm the CTO of MEF. And my background is probably about now close to yours, like 40 years now. I think I just hit my 40th year. I might not look like that, but 40 years in telecom started really in the days of Bisync X25 and mainframes and saw the whole technology wave. So being involved with many startups, 5 startups, I was at Microsoft for a decade and came over to the CTO of MEF about 8 years ago. I was also the co-founder of MEF in 2001, but left shortly after. So I have a huge background like yourself in telecom and really excited about the new times of telecommunications and what we're doing and all this softwareizations and virtualizations and clouds. So really fun time. Now MEF itself is a organization, global. We have about 200 plus members, mainly service providers, 130 plus service providers worldwide. And then the rest are all vendors, GSIs, and automation, networking vendors and so on. And together, we come together to build on a foundational layer about what the next generation of telecom should be and not have to everybody reinvent themselves. So examples of automation, how do you plug in to each other and make that automation work across the ecosystem? How do we define not that connectivity to turn it up really fast? We call it on-demand connectivity. How do you add in all this overlay technology, privatization of the VPNs, which is really SD-WAN with application performance guarantees? How do you put in cybersecurity into this whole area? SASE's become the big thing. And then finally, multi-cloud, hybrid and multi-clouds. How do you connect all kinds of clouds? That's going to be, very significant and important. So.
Well, fantastic topics. And how do you engage and support the community to drive, innovative thinking and collaboration in this space? What role do you see yourself playing?
So it's a really interesting question because most standards organizations kind of, work in a kind of vacuum kind of thing, in my opinion, and don't really bring into account the key stakeholders. What we've done, I think, a little differently since, I've come on board is we have a top-down view about what's strategic and what's important in business. So we have a leadership team, not only, the executives like myself, but we've got a board of directors, our chief product officers, CTOs of major telecom tier 1 providers worldwide. We have a technology advisory board of the key stakeholders and owners of their business, both in cybersecurity, in automation, and now, system integrations. And then we also have brought in an enterprise leadership council. So 12 top multinationals now have joined in. Then we've also added in a CEO advisory board that really comes in and talks about what they as CEOs, they're thinking about as tier 1 providers and vendors, what they think about their business models and so on. And we also have these regional councils that, for example, LATAM Council, we're starting one in Southeast Asia. We're talking about what's geographically, what their concerns are. So together we come together and we talk about what are we trying to do, what are the concerns and challenges of the industry. And then together we take that and we put that into actual projects and implement that into actual standards where it becomes automation APIs comes out of it and SDKs, or we have actual standards that then drive certifications. And then the members benefit from all of that. And it's all geared towards the strategic initiatives about how do we make everybody in the telecom industry win, grow bigger, better, faster, bolder. And that's kind of our goal, is to make everybody win.
Fantastic. And describe some of the frameworks. You called out a couple there, and how you see those helping with challenges, obstacles for the industry. What are some of the more recent initiatives that are top of mind to you in the community?
Yeah, so it's actually a very good question. We're seeing this world of machines come in, and I know many people don't like it, but machines are becoming very, very important in the world of technology, and especially in services and telecom to be exact. And what we're seeing is that machine-to-machine communication has now become extremely important to be able to turn up any service at a cloud-like speed. If you're used to telecommunication in the old world, it used to take 3 months, 6 months to turn up anything, and that's kind of old world thinking. The new world, what cloud has taught us is that I can go into a portal, click on something, and instantly it turns up, and that's the experience everybody, all the enterprise, IT pros and the business owners want, is that experience. So what we've done at MEF is we provide this huge automation framework in place, which has open APIs. And these APIs have two really major significant areas. One is, well, three to become with automation. One is in APIs, we have business APIs. So APIs where the enterprise can go in to a provider and ask for a quote for a certain address, get a price quote for service. If they like it, they can order the service. Then upon that ordering of the service, it might have to be that service is located in many parts of the world that they don't really own. For example, if you take a service provider in North America, and let's say you have a big enterprise saying, I want to connect to all my sites and the clouds all over the world at these geographies, that one service provider does not have the connectivity to do that underlay connectivity all over the world. So they have to work with all their ecosystem partners to do that and to coordinate all these sites to turn up and create this virtual private layer 2 network, for example. So that would normally take 6 months, and getting price quotes and salespeople involved, all that is going away to basically either APIs or a portal that enterprise customer comes into and says, I want these sites, I want these services, I want these speeds, I want this availability, and blah, blah, blah. And then out pops out the quote, and they like it. They just click order, and out goes the order to all of these partners to then turn up their loops and test it, and then make sure it's working right, and then monitoring it to make sure it's performing right, handling faults. So these are all the operational aspects of APIs. And then finally, if there's a fault, there's a trouble ticket between all the providers have to go, and that's automation also. And then finally, they have to bill and settle across the ecosystem. So that is, if you can imagine, a massive amount of automation, and the APIs have to be highly interoperable across all of these enterprises, and also especially these ecosystem partners, which are providers. So if you think about that, what we've really done is glued in this massive automation plane across the global ecosystem that everybody can plug into for turning up their loops today. But you're seeing tomorrow, they want to be able to access data centers to put their compute in there, for example, providers for putting edge compute in across the world that they don't normally have. Or they might want to connect to a certain cloud, a certain type of, SaaS cloud. And they want to do that also. And that SaaS cloud might have regions that they don't really have connectivity to. So all of this connectivity or application assurance or the cybersecurity is also big, adding cybersecurity into it. All of this automation has to happen at cloud-like speeds across the planet. And all this ecosystem has to plug in, play together. And that means tremendous interoperability. And that's really what we've been doing at MEF since I've been here for 8 years, coming from a software background. And we have a massive adoption of 160 plus providers somewhere on that journey of that automation to plug in. So we're really, really excited about what we've done there. And then every provider, I'm talking about that inter-provider, that ecosystem connecting, but every provider also has to have their own automation inside their own network. So that's another massive undertaking every provider have to think about. How do I automate inside my network? So we've collaborated with TM Forum of how to do that. And that was just announced, in June. And so we've got this whole ecosystem fully automated end to end and within each other's providers' network. So that's really powerful. And that's kind of what we've been doing.
Oh, fantastic work. And network as a service is a fascinating new way of delivering connectivity and networking, radically different approach. You recently introduced a NAS industry blueprint. What were some of the insights from that?
It's a very good question, Evan. It's actually ironic because NAS, network as a service, was really being around for a decade plus, coming from the point of, hey, let's connect on demand our sites together through automation and, site to site, site to data center. And then what we've been seeing is all this new technology emerge with SDN, software defined networks, and virtualization and automation. And then all of a sudden we started seeing network as a service change from this connectivity model to now, how do I deliver modern networks to the enterprises? And that's what MEF's taken on. So we've said, it's not just about the connectivity of the underlay, which where we, brought in the carrier Ethernet market and grew to $80 billion worldwide. It's not about just that connectivity that makes the business network. It's now adding in the application assurance above that. So SD-WAN technology, software-defined wide area network technology, came in about a decade ago. That's become very, very widespread and ubiquitous. And that overlay technology sits under the underlays, and they provide application assurance guarantees so applications perform right, which was always a big concern for many business owners where they have very mission critical applications, how well those applications perform. So that was, two things that are coming together. And all of a sudden now cybersecurity has become top of mind. In fact, we just released our cybersecurity report just a month ago, or a few weeks ago, actually. And it talks about the state of where cybercrime is and what cybersecurity is trying to do. And we talk about cybercrime is projected to be $15 trillion by 2025. Now, whether it's accurate or not globally, it's a pretty large number. And then we're talking about, well, what do we do to address this? And we're only spending $200 billion worldwide to try to address a $15 trillion, economy that's full of criminals. So really at this point, how do we handle this? So the industry's come out with this cloud-based security technology called SASE, Secure Access Service Edge. And the idea is you move security functions from within your sites and your data centers and your buildings. You still have them there, but you move them into the cloud. And so everything, every packet, every transaction goes through this scrubbing center. So it's very latency sensitive. It has to be deployed at the edges where the enterprises are connecting to the POPs or the providers. And these SASE clouds then becomes a scrubbing center that everything goes through and checks for all kinds of malware, for exploits, evasions, threats, and even connection to the internet. It checks to make sure that the URLs are not, somewhere, some dark net or someplace like that. So really, at the end of the day, all of this coming together, cybersecurity added on to this overlay of application performance, to then adding in the transports to take and to deliver all the packets end to end, becomes really a daunting task. And now add to that, the destinations are not data centers, they're clouds. They're clouds of all types. They're hyperscaler clouds or infrastructure as a service or SaaS services. There are many companies that move themselves to a cloud offering. So you want to connect to all those different SaaS offerings. We're seeing AI clouds come into now, very AI application-centric clouds are emerging. So you want to connect to those AI clouds, and they're seeing the edges too, or some regions, because it's also sensitive to latency. So the complexity of what I just talked about is kind of mind-numbing. and so now enterprises have to deal with, like, this is what I want. And then providers have to deliver on all of this. And they have to deliver it as a service. And as a service means the commercial models are very different than contractual models. So I'd love to go into that if you want to hear more, but it is so challenging. So at MEF, we've packaged all of this in a blueprint that allows providers, vendors, cloud providers, service providers to all use the blueprint like open source as a baseline to go implement all the APIs, the automations, the certifications, which I haven't talked about even, and then go ahead and then build their own differentiation on top. And that's really what we see as NAS, is what we're delivered as a blueprint and how this all comes together.
Fantastic approach. You mentioned certification. How does that work? What are some of the benefits for both the service provider and the enterprise customers who might be leveraging it?
Yeah, Evan, the funny thing about certification, we see it in everywhere. I just bought some monitors, and there's, I think, a standard for mounting onto my displays and my mounts for my multi-head displays. And I'm like, there's a certification standard for that. There's a certification standard for power. I get a power plug, to plug into my computer. This certifications are the norm everywhere. And for some reason, we don't look at cybersecurity, certification as being very important, especially in cybersecurity. So we've done certification for our carrier Ethernet. It's widely deployed, adopted. Everybody takes their standards, they get certified to make sure the service works right. We've deployed it. We're now finally doing that for SD-WAN certification. We did the version 1, now we're version 2 of that SD-WAN certification. We just launched our beta for cybersecurity for SASE certification. And I got to tell you, this is the first in the world that actually tests for how well threats are being, managed by these services.
Wow.
Yeah, and there's nothing like it. So in the past, what's happened was people were buying these cybersecurity services from vendors or from service providers, and they had no idea how they've been protected from threats, And so they would either test it themselves or hire a company to check it and do penetration testing and so on. And what we realized, well, this is craziness. We are standardizing the cybersecurity of SASE and SD-WAN, and we should be checking the point of how well applications behave in the way of WAN impairments, for example, for SD-WAN. How well does applications classify? Because every application is encrypted, using TLS or HPS. And so you can't use just a normal port, lookup, UDP, TCP port lookup. You have to use heuristics, and classifiers are very sophisticated to find the application in it. Because that's important. If you don't know the application, you can't know the policies to apply. Then you look at threats. There's exploits, evasions, malwares. There's a million malwares, database you have to look at. There's thousands and thousands of exploits and invasions you have to look at. You have to test against that, all these products. And then you think about cybersecurity was in the enterprise. So they had this appliance where they put firewalls and their IDS, IPS, and all the various security functions, but they were single tenant. So they can handle performance only for that tenant. But you move all of that into the cloud, all of a sudden that cloud is a multi-tenant model. So how well does those security functions now perform in a cloud-native environment that's multi-tenant? That is a whole nother beast. So when they port all that code, does it work right? Does it still protect right? Does it perform right? And then you have now zero trust. What are the policies, authentication, authorization policies? Do they work right? So you could see this complexity we're talking about, and why cybercrime and the exploits have really been taken off, because it's so complex that no one really knows this. And so we're testing for all of this to make sure the vendors got it right, the providers got it right, and we deliver this certification not on a pass-fail, but basically on what we did, with bonds and Moody bonds rating. A AAA, you are highly, highly secure from exploits, evasions, malware, blah, 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 all down all our testing criteria. And if you got, a AA or B or C, you need to go try to get to AAA. So our certification is a year-long subscription that really promotes everybody to try to get to a AAA. And if they don't get it, come back, retest, fix the problems, and basically strive for that AAA. So that's what we're trying to do. And that is really the first of its kind. And it's highlighted in that security report we released as how we're trying to try to solve this cybercrime of $15 trillion.
Wow, incredible mission. Congratulations on that. And describe how the organization, your members work on a sort of month-to-month basis. I assume you have virtual meetings, you have in-person meetings, you're doing a lot of information sharing. What does that look like for the members?
Yeah, very interesting question, because we're talking about a global membership. And so how do you participate? It's really, really challenging sometimes. So we do meet 4 times a year physically, person to person. Every project, so I'm the CTO, I've been overlooking about 60 plus projects are active. Plus, remember, since 2001, we have tons of standards that's already, adopted. There's hundreds of the standards and 60 new projects of all the things I've talked about. And so we have teams all over the world of members, contractors, vendors, all working together to, deliver on this kind of baseline technology so no one has to reinvent it from scratch. So we do that, like I said, 4 times a year. We have weekly calls on every project that's led by normally, what we call an editor, co-editor, or a lead of that project. And they bring their teams that want to participate together. We also have our yearly event called our Global NAS event, Global Network as a Service event. We had the first one last year, and we're doing this one in Dallas of this year. It'll be the last week of October in Dallas. And there you bring in a ton of thought leadership that talks about where's the industry going. And, for example, we were talking about what AI is happening with inference and transformers and obviously generative AI. how would that play into services, into the telco environments, where cybersecurity will be, how do we do automation? We'll have an automation conference also on day one. There's a lot we do. So as membership, our goal is to bring all our members together to really go through this. Now, in the past, SDOs rely on their members to do the work. We flipped it a little bit. We are now we hire contractors to do all of that grunt, detailed minutia work, which our members don't have time for because they have their regular job. But our members act as subject matter experts and business owners. They tell us what's important to them. They tell us what the product roadmap, what they're looking at, where their challenges are. They're looking at our work and saying, let me review it and give you my thoughts as a subject matter expert. So we're moving more and more to our membership becoming an ecosystem of thought leadership, of memberships that are giving subject matter expertise. And then we're hiring the contractors and the developers to do the work. And, me doing startups, that's my natural way how I think. And it's really allowing us to move at massive speeds that no other standards organization can do. And that's why you look at our work I just described, you're going, wow, that's like boiling the ocean. The answer is most of it's not vaporware. It's actual production, great stuff, really delivered into the market already. So over 8 years, we've done all of this and we continue to push forward. So.
Well, it's very exciting. It must be very gratifying, fun to have such a unique position and perspective on the industry. What are you excited about the next, couple of months through summer into the busy fall season? What's on your mind professionally, personally?
Well, personally, I'm going to enjoy the summer. I live in Seattle, so I'm going to take a little time off and enjoy the
time to thrive.
Yeah, well, nothing like Seattle. It's called Emerald City for a reason. It's beautiful. But right. I have planning towards the end. I'll be in Batik. It's a big conference in Bali, which will have all the Southeast Asian operators there. We'll be talking about all that's going on in Southeast Asia because every continent has their own flavor of what's going on. So, and where they are in the maturity cycle of all of this evolution to this next generation of cloudification. But what I'm really excited about is we're bringing in smart contracts as a service. We're going to federate we've got a thing called Federation that's going to be launching that will be the implementation of all our work that says plug in, join in together across the ecosystem, build this big global federation that everybody can participate in, whether you want to have just connectivity or you want to do SASE clouds or you want to get to AI clouds, hyperscale, all of that's going to come in. And that all means takes all our work plugging together, all the certification will be part of it. So I think that is going to be really, really powerful over the next couple of years. And that's kind of what we're driving to. And we're getting all our members to plug in and to connect together and to really create this ecosystem, this global ecosystem that has all that automation, cybersecurity, connectivity, clouds, and the access to finally AI clouds all over, including edges. So I think, you can hear it from me. I'm super passionate because I really love what I do. And after 40 years, you think I'd be kind of bored of it, but it never stops for me.
It's the most exciting time in this industry for sure. Well, congratulations on all the success. And it's really excellent work. It's really a much needed role you're playing. Thanks, Pascal.
Well, thank you, Evan. You being a big expert in this industry for so long, I know you can appreciate the things we're trying to do. And we do have massive goals and these are massive aspirations. But again, 8 years ago, I was daunting. 8 years later, I'm the CTO and I'm thinking, wow, look at what we've done. You look backwards, you go, oh my God, I cannot believe all the things we've done. It's just incredible. And again, not thanks to everybody, our membership, our leadership, our contractors, our staff, everybody's participated in this. So it's been a really inclusive model that has really made this work. And so I'm so grateful to be part of this journey.
Absolutely. Well, onwards and upwards and have a great summer. Thanks everyone for watching. Reach out to MEF, MEF.net. Great website. Lots of amazing resources there as well. Take care, Pascal. Thanks everyone.
Take care.